Chapter 76. Florida man plunders and murders 200 police officers for a rare dish. Oh no. As soon as Leo uttered the words and snapped his fingers, Tang Xian realized the crisis. He gulped and didn't utter another word as he sensed the tremendous pressure coming from the domain. Poof, poof, poof. Tang Xian witnessed everything. Yi Tianxia's underlings were disintegrated one after another. Life force energy left their bodies and gathered in Leo's chest. Those life force, lifespan, domain? Could it be? The Chancellor figured out the secret of Leo's domain. It forcefully extracted the life force of dead people to its master, the Florida man. Secondly, as the domain was related to life force, the master could also manipulate other cultivators' lifespan, thus explaining the existence of the store and his weird currency. Understanding the purposes of the domain, Tang Xian got enough information to report to the emperor. He compiled the information in his mind. This man is too dangerous. The empire and my clan can't afford to provoke him. We must get on his good side to survive. Only fools will charge headfirst here to rob his artifacts and rare herbs. Well, this works in my favor. I can manipulate Yen Zhu to launch a full-scale attack on this immortal and get him killed. That way, the Fatui cult will be disbanded, and one less unorthodox sect will continue to exist. Tang Xian glanced at Leo, who seemed to be in a daze again. Using this opportunity, he kicked the ground and vanished. The next moment, he traveled 10 kilometers away. After getting out of the domain, Tang Xian looked at his hands. They were as sweaty as his face and his drenched back. He felt like he was one step away from death. Took him a few hours to settle down. Tang Xian quietly returned to the capital by himself, leaving behind Yen Zhu and his men in the forest. Poof, poof. Leo watched how the 190-ish nascent soul cultivators turned into ash. He opened his lifespan menu and checked his income in real time. Your lifespan has increased by 716 years. Your lifespan has increased by 852 years. Your lifespan has increased by 827 years. Nothing was sweeter than free lifespan from intruders. Leo couldn't stop smiling. Meanwhile, Wu Bai blankly stared at the carnage from the top of Cat's chomper head. He looked down from above and noticed that everybody turned into ash. He nodded in approval. Yup, that's Lord Florida man for you. Only fools would pick a fight with him. Wu Bai sat and patted Cat's human head. She was surprised for a moment and swatted his hand off. Then, she tried to bite him with her humanoid mouth. Hiss! The alchemist snickered and toyed with Cat. What? Can't I pat your head, little girl? Meow! What do you mean I didn't do anything? Because of me, they fired a water chi beam at you. Didn't you get a mouthful of precious water chi? Meow meow. Nom nom meow. What? It doesn't count as food? Look, Missy, you'd better be considerate to your seniors. I know that you're stronger than me, but you need to show some respect to elders. Pa! Cat's vine came from above and swatted Wu Bai away from her head. Her body soon shrank and reduced to the usual size. Her cultivation base also reverted to the 4th stage. She yawned and retreated into the granary, where her food haven awaited. Meanwhile, Wu Bai was knocked down from the sky and landed on the ground. He only sensed a light impact, but he wasn't hurt. Still, he noticed that a thin layer of blue grid barrier blinked in front of him and vanished after he had gotten on the ground. Wu Bai patted his clothes to get rid of dust. He snorted and turned his attention to the survivors and the disciples. Upon looking around, he noticed that all disciples gathered in the warehouse next to the junkyard. Gao Yen was also there with them. Seeing that the disciples were safe, Wu Bai was relieved. He turned his attention to the remnant next. However, only one cultivator remained. Yi Tianxia was left behind. As for the Chancellor, he was no longer there. Yi Tianxia was shocked. When he realized that he wasn't the monster's opponent, he used Tian Xian as a shield, begging him to do something about the monster. But suddenly, the situation turned for the worse. All good men, who served Yi Tianxia for decades, got disintegrated into dust for no reason. He was speechless and confused at the same time. A few seconds later, after his subordinates were all killed, Tang Xian kicked the ground and retreated from this place, leaving Yi Tianxia alone. Yi Tianxia was vexed. He clenched his fist. Damn coward! You're a quasi-immortal, but you don't even have the guts to fight a 6th-stage monster. You don't deserve the Chancellor title. I think you should take a look at. Yi Tianxia swallowed his anger and continued hiding from the giant monster's line of sight. While hiding, he found Leo on the farm, poking something invisible in front of him. The cultivator swallowed his saliva. As Yi Tianxie was aware of his position and the strength gap between the quasi-immortal stage and the soul transformation stage, he chose not to provoke Liu. He looked around, searching for the gap in their defense and an escape route. Boom! While looking, Wu Bai fell from Cat's head and landed not far away from a mysterious west building. Their eyes accidentally met. Wu Bai and Yi Tianxie gave each other a meaningful look. As Yi Tianxie was 2 realms higher than Wu Bai, the former wasn't afraid. However, he was wary of Leo and the plant monster. TSK, just you wait. Once I report this to His Highness, you people will be reduced to dust. I won't forget this humiliation. Yi Tianxie grudgingly stomped the ground and flew east, fleeing from this place and avoiding Leo, Wu Bai, and Cat. Along the way, he noticed a dozen agents in the forest, who also sneered at him. Because of the spectators, Yi Tianxie's mind was filled with anger. He swore that he would raze this place to the ground one day. As such, he made a detour around the place and escaped to Magpie City, where Yan Zhu and others had been waiting for him. Seeing that the customers were gone, Leo began picking the loot. As so many people died, rings, weapons, artifacts, armor, and clothes were everywhere. The warehouse mannequins also knew their cue. They came out from hiding and began collecting rings and random weapons as the mannequins moved. The disciples also came out from hiding. Is it over? Gao Yan looked around. He could no longer see Cat in her giant form. Probably. A disciple dryly laughed. They didn't want to get into the crossfire between super experts, as chi condensation cultivators like them could instantly die because of their sneeze. The group came out and walked toward the workshop, which was their gathering place. As they proceeded further, their feet stepped on the clothes of the dead cultivators. 2 of them also noticed a glowing dish on the ground. A shining dish? Everybody huddled to see the strange thing. One of them tried to pick it up. Bzzz. The dish rejected the disciple. As if he was hit by a lightning bolt, he was sent flying. Fortunately, a transparent wall blocked the attack and decreased the impact force for the guy. Ow! The disciple landed on his butt and got up in frustration. He didn't notice that the shop domain had saved his life. What was that for? Gao Yan and others were relieved that the guy was unharmed. They laughed at their friend's misfortune. Because you suck. You. As their friend failed, Gao Yan tried next. He grabbed the dish. Spell.Siomicron-mbzzz. The residual water element chi hit him. However, as Gao Yan's primary chi was wood, his water attribute resistance was high. It only staggered him until he let go of the treasure. Gao Yan dropped the plate. However, it didn't break when it hit the solid ground. He fluttered his hand in pain. Yeah, it stings. I sense water chi in this thing. I think it's an artifact that boosts the owner's water element chi. Hearing that it was an actual artifact, the disciples were astonished. Some of them ran around trying to search for other items. Then, they found the remains of another dead cultivator near the junkyard. There's another one. I found a red mirror. Another disciple also found a pair of white daggers on top of the clothing store's building. I see daggers on the roof. Everybody had fun playing a treasure hunt game. However, none of them could touch the artifacts and treasures as they once had an owner. Only nascent soul cultivators or stronger seniors could tame them. However, a certain group of mannequins ignored the rules. They nonchalantly picked up the dishes, daggers, mirrors, and dangerous items. Then, they carried them to the warehouse as if they did nothing to them. Bzzz. 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 Chi attacks from the artifacts hit the warehouse mannequins, but they were unfazed. In 5 minutes, they collected 100 artifacts and put them in a trash bin inside the warehouse. The disciples followed the mannequins around as these guys seemed to know where the items were. They hoped to get some souvenirs or leftover items that they could use. The disciples weren't the only ones with the thoughts. The vultures that had been hiding in the forest also had an eye on the artifacts. Thus, they crept closer to the store and plotted to raid the warehouse tonight. Because of their greed, their killing intent leaked. Wu Bai immediately picked up their chi signature and looked around. He soon noticed their movements. Oh boy, I guess I can't concoct any pill tonight. Chapter 77. Florida man scot-free after murdering 200 local cops and establishing crime syndicate. As Wu Bai sensed the killing intent of the lurkers, he ignored everything and went to find Leo. Fortunately, Leo was busy calculating his lifespan and planning his next expansion. He still stood in the middle of the first farm plot. Lord Florida man, sir. Wu Bai humbly approached Leo and called for him. My lord. The lurkers around here will probably attack us tonight. Should I go out and hunt them down? Hearing that the store would be attacking soon, Leo snapped back to his senses. He then beamed Wu Bai with a bright smile. Let them come. Is that a good idea? Wu Bai doubted it was the right action. After all, the disciples were fragile. The golden core and the nascent soul cultivators around here could easily crush them by just waving hands. Nah, they'll be fine as long as they stay indoor after sunset. Tell them to get inside the store when the sun goes down. Remember this. Never go outside when the sun goes down. If they're going to raid the store, let them attack first. I'll deal with them later. If you say so, my lord. Wu Bai disagreed with this decision, but he obeyed the order. He called every disciple over and told them to rush into the store when before sunset. And that's the order. Remember, never wander out at night. Lord Florida Man stresses that this place is not Life Sword Sect. There are beasts and monsters lurking in the forest, and they sometimes wander around the stream. Gao Yen and others listened to Wu Bai and nodded. Still, the teenagers and the kids were still immature. The more warning, the more temptation. Everybody was curious about what would happen at night. Seeing the sparkling pupils of the disciples, Wu Bai narrowed his eyes as he could see through their thoughts. He threatened them. Also, I've spotted multiple nascent soul and golden core cultivators in the forest, and they have been watching this place for days. I believe they will raid this place tonight. Therefore, if you don't want to die, don't. You, freaking, go outside. The threat worked like magic. The mischievous smiles vanished from the disciples' faces. Even Gao Yen, who was the strongest among the bunch, broke a cold sweat. Noticing that the threat was effective, Wu Bai taught them about today's event. Listen, just now we've been attacked by 200 nascent soul cultivators. We're lucky that Lord Florida Man and his pet are around. Now that those lurkers have seen their strength, they will aim for their weaknesses next. Do you know what their weaknesses are? What are they, sir? Yeah. Wu Bai paced back and forth as these disciples were too naive and clueless about the cultivation world's dark side. This was a world of anarchy where the strong devoured the weak. They were bullied and almost lost their lives, but they didn't learn. Brat, do you remember what they did to you? Wu Bai reminded them. They stole our artifacts. Those were the treasures of Lord Florida Man. They're not yours to begin with. The disciples sulked as they couldn't get back the fancy thorn whips. They wished that they could have an artifact like the adults. Wu Bai read them like a book. He snickered at them. You will get one eventually. For now, you're not strong enough to use a strong artifact. Once you reach where I am, you will be swimming in a pool of spirit stones and artifacts. Just focus on getting stronger. Hearing Wu Bai's encouragement, they felt better. Everybody agreed to work hard in cultivation. Being motivated, they returned to the store building to rest and get used to their new living quarters. After the disciples were herded into the building, Wu Bai was relieved. He also entered his house and entered temporary seclusion, waiting for the upcoming night. He prayed that the invaders wouldn't be too strong. Meanwhile, Leo rubbed his hands while he stood on the Mystic Realm platform. He couldn't stop laughing. Current lifespan, 178,072 years, 6 months, 27 days, 9 hours, 57 minutes. Stealing lifespan from strong cultivators was the best. He managed to gather a lot in less than a day. Dear Lord, please send more my way. I love it. Leo opened the domain menu and checked the available structures. Livestock Shed. Requirement Humble General Store Level 7. Price 1,000 years of lifespan. Space 10 by 10. Parking lot. Requirement Humble General Store Level 8. Price 1,000 years of lifespan. Space 30 by 30. Warehouse 2. Requirement Humble General Store Level 8. I think you should take a look at. Price 500 years of lifespan. Space 5 by 5. Granary 2. Requirement Humble General Store Level 8. Price 500 years of lifespan. Space 5 by 5. Employee Apartment. Requirement Humble General Store Level 8. Price 10,000 years of lifespan. Space 20 by 50. Domain Expansion. Requirement Humble General Store Level 8. Price 10,000 years of lifespan. Expansion range 100 by 100. Although Leo barely used 10% of the available area, he needed more territory for his future buildings and other expansion projects. After all, there were many useless areas that Leo couldn't touch. such as streams and shallow rivers. Domain expansion was what Leo desired the most. However, the system's offer seemed lackluster as it could only expand the domain by 10,000 square meters. Comparing it to the domain of 1 square kilometer, it was insignificant. Still, it was necessary and useful as Leo could designate the entire area as an empty yard. He could also erect a parking lot there, turning it into an airstrip for the local cultivators from afar to park there. As Leo planned to purchase the expansion, he studied the item and pressed on it, checking the preview. Ding! The minimap zoomed out. Instead of showing the 1000 by 1000 grids, it had another display mode. It showed 3 by 3 grids while Leo's domain was at the center. The west grid, southeast grid, and northeast grid were marked with red stripes, which disallowed Leo to expand toward the directions. In the map, all major geographical landmarks were highlighted. In the center, the Sword St. Boulder and a blue home icon marked the area as Leo's home base. In the west, Magpie City and Life Sword Sect were the closest neighbors. They were only 10 kilometers away, and their landmarks appeared at the edge of the minimap. A portion of the area was highlighted in red, which indicated that Leo couldn't expand his domain to that area. As for the east, Leo could see the stream that Leo had been using as a water source. It flowed down from the north, and it headed southeast. However, the minimap didn't show the stream's destination. At the southeast edge of the map, an icon of a black cone and 3 red swords was noticeable as the city was 10 times bigger than Life Sword Sect and Magpie City. It also came with a label, Factory Cult, Frozen Fire City. Leo finally understood why those KKK wannabe guys came from the south. Their headquarters was there. Factory Cult wasn't the only new hostile neighbor. Directly to the north, a skull and a black sword image icon were directly north of Leo's domain. Furthermore, the territory's borders were connected to the Magpie City's area of influence. Death Sword Sect and its town, the Mantis Dragon City, expanded from east to west. On the map, Leo could only see the urban town, but he couldn't see the full layout of the city. Sword St. Forest was also highlighted, but it only covered the west of Magpie City. 1/3 of the forest already became an empty field as Leo had removed them. Looking at the geography, terrain, and map, the expandable area seemed so tiny. He was disappointed in the system. Cheapskate system, this is too small. As Leo was worried about the farm and the Mystic Realm platform, he expanded toward the south. Then, the system allowed Leo to pick the location. However, it didn't allow Leo to freely pick an area. It showed 10 locked blocks which were attached to the southern territory of his domain. When Leo pressed it, the system warned him. Will you unlock this area? Cost 10,000 years of lifespan. Leo raised his eyebrows and pressed an adjacent block in curiosity. When he touched the button, the system asked Leo again. Will you unlock this area? Cost 10,000 years of lifespan. With that information, Leo understood how the system was playing with him. He muttered, "This is a waste of lifespan. I should wait for more useful facilities. I'll only build it when I don't have a space to build anymore." Leo canceled the purchase. But as soon as he closed it, the domain system gave him a hint. Tips: you can acquire domain expansion tickets by completing a Mystic Realm exploration. The number you can acquire depends on the difficulty. Tips: domain expansion tickets can be used to unlock more land. Leo almost cursed it out loud as the system was toying with him. System, what do you mean? Can I get the expansion for free? The system didn't answer, but Leo already got enough hints. His widened eyes locked on the Mystic Realm portal platform as if he had found a fully grown marijuana plant in the wild. Leo stuck out his tongue. He panted like a perverted old man on crack. He rubbed his hands to get his dry palm wet. Well, I see what the system is trying to do. Encouraging me, Chapter 78, Florida man digs new river for local alligators. Neighbor complains. Leo sensed a déjà vu as the free tickets reminded him of so many ancient mobile games before the nuclear fallout age. It was similar to base-building games and gacha games, which sometimes gave away gacha tickets for players. But in this case, the free tickets came in the form of an exchangeable token. It guaranteed that Leo could use it to expand his domain territory instead of spending 10,000 years of lifespan. However, to get them, he had to work for it. So, you finally give me a quest after 50 freaking thousand years. Aside from the online shopping system, you didn't even help me or advise me. But now, you are giving me a lot of free tips and quests. Leo was frustrated. He wished the system could have helped him when he needed it the most. Back then, Leo relied on himself and limited information from the ring to survive the harsh environment. He felt like he was a newborn character from a FromSoft game which he could have been killed in 1 or 2 hits from monsters. After complaining to the system, it went quiet. Leo deeply sighed as it was pointless to pick a fight with the weird system. He sat on the Mystic Realm portal platform and gazed at the rotating ring at the center. I guess I have to upgrade you. You're damn expensive. Do you know that? The ring frame of the portal hummed. It was unknown if it responded to Leo's word or if it was a coincidence. As Leo had nothing to lose but his lifespan, he upgraded the portal platform to level 8, investing 70,000 years of lifespan in one go. Rumble. The platform shook. Then changes occurred. The entire structure lifted itself into the air and started floating higher. The size also expanded, getting wider and larger. Within 3 seconds, it transformed from a 400 square meter platform to a 10,000 square meter flying island. The 4 scorpion obelisk pillars at the edge also grew 100 meters taller. No longer showing only a scorpion tail obelisk, the platform created 4 statues with scorpion tails. At the top left corner, a 50-meter tall red wolf with 4 feather wings sat still, glaring at the top right statue while baring its fangs. The obelisk and the statue were painted red, and the floor around it had the outline of spilling blood. At the bottom of the statue's feet, there was a label, Unfortunate Evil Overlord who will find a happy marriage life through fateful encounters. At the top right corner, a massive ball-like creature statue innocently gazed at the portal. It had 8 chubby octopus tentacles. Its eyes and mouth looked like something from Japanese anime as it was too cute. However, the obelisk extended from its tail, and everything was painted green. The label indicated, Unfortunate Evil Overlord who will find true endings through his companions. At the bottom left corner, a black-winged angel sat on a throne and smirked at the bottom right statue. 3 naked women crawled around him as if they were his servants or concubines. In addition, it was the only statue where the scorpion tail was connected to his throne, not his body. Its represented color was black and the label was the strange, unfortunate evil overlord who will find endless pleasure through heroes' ordeals. And lastly, at the bottom right, a gigantic elderly man sitting and smiling at the portal situated there. His hands held a fishing rod, and he wore a t-shirt, shorts, rubber boots, and a straw hat. No matter how Leo looked at the statue, it looked exactly like an ordinary fisherman in the modern world, except for the scorpion tail that extended from his back. This was also the only statue without a color. However, the label said something else. Unfortunate evil overlord who will find true happiness through his family. Leo had no idea what the statues represented. If they showed up as an azure dragon, phoenix, black tortoise, and white tiger, they would have been relatable. However, these statues were too strange. Evil overlords? What the hell? Unable to decipher the clues, Leo gave up thinking for now. He turned his attention to the floating platform as it started moving. It had become a flying island. The island maintained its altitude at 1,000 meters above Leo's store, casting a shadow upon the land below. Then it stopped moving, stabilizing its location. Whoosh! Boom! Leo sensed that something was shot down from the platform and hit the top of the store. He rushed to the edge of the platform and jumped down to see what the flying platform had done. There was a long glass tube extending from the bottom of the platform. Judging from the shape and size, Leo could somewhat guess what it was. An elevator? The heck? Leo entered his store and discovered that an elevator appeared in the middle of the store. He approached it and discovered that it was also functional. Curious, Leo got inside the elevator and examined the buttons. However, there were only 3 buttons, ground floor, second floor, and the heaven icon. Leo shrugged and pressed the heaven icon, which appeared as a building on a white cloud. Ding! The elevator door was closed. Then it began ascending. Leo turned around and looked through the glass walls, and he noticed that Wu Bai and the disciples were still in shock. Leo held back his laughter and looked up, waiting for the elevator to send him to the top floor. It only took him a few minutes to get there. Ding! The elevator door was reopened. Leo walked out and found himself outside the right foot of the wolf statue. Oh! Leo looked up and smiled at the wolf statue. How nice! I don't have to calculate my jump. I can just take the elevator. Leo was happy with the new changes. At least, he wouldn't need to worry about intruders messing with the platform or stealing its entrance quota that I think you should take a look at. Thinking of the quota, Leo managed the status of the Mystic Realm portal platform, allocating some points to the facility. Mystic Realm portal, level 8. Entry limit, person. 3 out of 10. Portal cooldown reduction, 0/5. Portal duration, May 5th. Next destination, unknown low-mid plane. Upgrade, 10,000 years of lifespan. Status, ready to open. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Safety first. Maintaining the portal activation was the key here. As Leo had never been to the rumor mystic realms, he made sure that he would have enough time to return. With 5 points to the portal duration, Leo would have 35 days to finish his first exploration. As for the entry limit, Leo didn't care. Could be used as a bonus for good-behaving workers or a reward for Wu Bai. After setting up the Mystic Realm portal, Leo jumped down and returned to the place where the platform used to be. Upon arrival, he found a large square hole. Looking at the remains, Leo dryly laughed. He wondered what he should do to the empty land. Should I just make a fish pond here or what? Leo thought of the fisherman statue and got inspiration. He wondered what would happen if he kept some fish in the pond without the system's help. Putting his thought to practice, Leo went to visit the recycling center mannequins. The yellow jacket mannequins were so busy that Leo felt bad for them. Everybody had been collecting leaves, branches, and random junk and placing them in the junkyard, waiting for Leo to filter or sort them. Every mannequin had no exhaustion or tired in their dictionary. They worked like madmen, running around and competing with each other. They also never dropped their yellow helmets, even though they sometimes stumbled on a rock and fell. All right, that's enough for now. Hearing Leo's order, they put their last items in the junkyard and stood in front of Leo, waiting for the next instructions. Looking at their attentive attitude, Leo loved them more. He tried asking them something irrelevant to the recycling center. Say, can you help me dig a fishing pond? You can use that area. The layout is already there. The mannequins turned right in unison and started running. In seconds, they reached the place where the Mystic Realm platform once was. Upon finding the place, 3 of them turned around and rushed to the granary. They picked up farming tools and carried them to their colleagues. After passing the tools around, they started digging. Leo came to check on them later. When he noticed that they were capable of using hoes and shovels, Leo was relieved. You guys are smart. All right, keep working. I'll be back to check on you later. The mannequin didn't respond to Leo's words. They ignored him and continued digging and plowing the soil. That day was the trigger of something irreversible. Leo failed to tell them when to stop. He also forgot to give them the dimension of the fishing pond. Meanwhile, the spies and lurkers looked at the flying island with round eyes. None of them could find the right words to describe what they saw. Because of Leo's activities, they quickly reported it to their headquarters. The Ouyang clan, Situ clan, Factory cult, and Death Sword sect received the new intel. As the situation changed, they received a new order. They wanted hostages. With hostages, they could force Leo to work for them. This coincided with the spies' intentions. Everybody lay low and get ready for the night raid. Their targets, the disciples. Chapter 79, Florida man raids empty police station while cops raids his house. Leo upgraded every facility to level 8. He also built a new warehouse and a granary, expanding his storage and spending additional 27,500 years of lifespan. With a clothing store, a recycling center, 3 alchemy workshops, 3 farm plots, 3 houses, 2 warehouses, 2 granaries, a general store, and a Mystic Realm portal, Leo got 17 facilities in his domain. Although upgrading cost was cheap, leveling everything was costly. Current lifespan, 80,572 years. Leo had a heartache. In a flash, he lost 97,500 years to the system. However, Leo hadn't had enough. He eyed the new building. Employee apartment. Requirement: humble general store level 8. Price: 10,000 years of lifespan. Space: 20 by 50. This was necessary. Cost a lot and it took a lot of space. However, Leo needed a place for his workers to live, as he couldn't let them sleep in the general store for too long. It was a place for business, not a hotel. Leo swallowed his saliva. He was afraid that the apartment upgrades might cost him 10,000 YOL per level. If that were the case, he would need to spend 80,000 YOL. YOL equals years of lifespan. As this was a big project, Leo contemplated the pros and cons for a long time. He sat on the edge of the flying island, looking at the sunset and the scenery. The sun escaped, and the night arrived. Leo's glowing green pupils scanned the forest below and spotted the heat signature of 100 lurkers around his domain. Strangely, they were too close to the domain boundary. They crept into bushes, crawling while hiding from plain sight. Leo smirked as he found their actions amusing. He took a long leap from the platform and glided toward the back of the junkyard, where the two vulnerable warehouses and the recycling center were. While gliding, Leo calculated how he would bait them to attack him first. He had a general idea of what he should do. As soon as the sky turned dark, 20 spies crawled out of the forest, approaching the junkyard. As their uniforms were black and they wore masks, they had no issue with their disguise. They were Golden Core cultivators from the Death Sword sect. They were weaker than the previous group as they were the supporting team. However, their current mission was not to fight. They only needed to snatch one or two of Life Sword sect's disciples from here so that they could use them to blackmail Florida Man and enslave him in the process. Their group was the first to cross the boundary, and everybody jumped out of the bushes. They sprinted toward the recycling center. As the mannequins in yellow jackets were busy, none of them patrolled the facility, making it easy for the spies to infiltrate this area. Next to the recycling center's junkyard, two warehouse buildings stood next to each other. 5 of the spies stopped and looked at the front entrances of these storehouses. One of them whispered to his colleague, "Let's grab some treasures." The other spy shook his head. "Let's not. We need to complete our missions first. We're infiltrating the nest of a quasi-immortal and a 6th-stage monster plant. There's also a nascent soul alchemist in the area. We have to hurry." "Shame." The spies looked at the warehouse buildings in pity. They looked away and sneaked closer to the back of the West Alchemy Workshop. Boom. While they sneaked to the back of the first Alchemy Workshop, they heard something loud from the north of Sword St. Forest, where they had come from. Everybody looked back as they had concerns. The location of the noise was their operation headquarters. At the camp, they left behind Golden Core cultivators to act as a messenger and a logistic officer. They were in charge of handling their escape routes. "Is someone attacking our camp?" one of them muttered. Everyone was shaken. Thus, their captain ordered them, "3 of you go back and check our camp. If something happens, abort the mission and retreat." "Yes, boss." 3 of the spies rushed back to their base. As for the rest, they proceeded toward the back of the general store. The Death Sword sect's agents weren't the only ones who managed to reach the store building. The Factory Cult's agents and Ouyang Clan's cultivators dispatched 100 men and surrounded the building as well. However, they came from the south and the east. The Factory Cult's agents brazenly waltzed from the front, ignoring the mannequin workers who had been working on the farms and the fish pond. They gathered in front of the general store, where the disciples were hiding inside. The team warily looked at the nearby house, 5 meters away from the store. Similar to the Death Sword sect's agents, they were not confident that they could take on the alchemist and the plant monster. As they didn't want to waste time, one of them tried to open the front door to get inside. Click. It was locked from the inside. The team of 70 agents looked at each other. One of them drew a sword and swung at the glass windows. Clank. The sword was broken in one hit. The cultivator frowned as he didn't notice the 1 millimeter thin transparent wall in front of the glass windows. He didn't understand why his steel sword broke because of the fragile-looking glasses that I think you should take a look at. The other agents also tried. They inserted their chi into the door, trying to break whatever array that sealed the door. However, as the door was never locked by an array, their chi injection failed. A smarter agent had keener eyes. They noticed the keyhole under the door handle. Thus, he injected his chi into the hole, trying to figure out the mechanism behind the lock. Click. Modern locks were no match for psychics and cultivators. He safely unlocked it and opened the door. Everybody sneered. They believed that this raid would be a walk in the park. But as soon as the lockpicker pulled the door open, he found a layer of red curtain wall. He couldn't see through the red light. "What's this?" The cultivators stood in front of the energy curtain. They looked at each other as if they were afraid of trap arrays. As everybody didn't dare to make a move, they asked their colleagues if anybody was trained in arrays and formations. Soon, the agents from the Ouyang family caught up and discovered the Factory's group. The Death Sword sect's spies also gathered in front of the store and found everybody. They were on guard at first, but since they came here for the same goal, the leaders of each team negotiated their terms and came to an agreement. They would cooperate and try to snatch Florida Man's people. As for the blackmail scheme, they would leave it to their bosses to decide. As the Ouyang clan's agents were well-versed in formations and arrays, their people inspected the red curtain energy behind the front door. The agent was one of the few nascent soul cultivators alive. He scanned the energy curtain with his chi. A few seconds later, the agent informed them of the good news. This is not a trap or a killing array. It's just there to remove infectious germs from the visitors. Really? Yes, there is no mistake. The crowd let out a sigh of relief. They sneered and waited for the Ouyang clan's agents to get in first. The Ouyang agents took responsibility and got in first. After crossing the red energy curtain, they found a new world inside. The interior of this building was larger than the outside, but they couldn't get to see everything. There was another hurdle they had to get through. Beyond the front door, there was a glass room. They were surrounded by glass walls and glass doors with white metal frames. However, there was no door knob or a handle. In addition, behind the glass doors and the walls, another layer of shutter curtains blocked the entrance. One cultivator entered the small room one after another, but they couldn't open the weird glass doors. The Ouyang agents tried to pry open the door, but they didn't budge. The nascent soul cultivator earlier tried to use brute force and chi. However, they stood firm like a mountain. The cultivators behind the nascent soul array master were confused. What now? The agents were baffled. Let's just hurry and destroy the walls. The cultivators could see the movement inside behind the shutters. The lights were on, and the disciples were still touring the empty mall. As the intruders came from the front door, the disciples already noticed them. They started shouting and warning the others. Then they started running toward the second floor. They've noticed us. We have to hurry. They sent their strongest men in and kicked the weaker guys out. Then they started attacking the glass walls and the doors. Boom, boom. Punches and kicks ended up hurting the assailants. Some of them brought out hammers. However, they bounced back upon impact. Shit! Attack harder. Their master will come soon. The crowd panicked as they were afraid of Leo and the monster plant. Everybody began channeling their chi and attacked the store from the front. Beams, energy balls, flying weapons, and energy spirits hit the glass walls, causing explosions and sparks everywhere. Ding! Warning! The humble general store is under attack. You may use the emergency defensive order to eliminate the intruders. Leo stood in the middle of a small camp. His right foot stepped on a half-dead golden core cultivator from the Death Sword sect. As for the others, they were squirming, twisting, and turning as their skins and bodies swelled. Their blood blackened while their guts replaced their outer skin. He looked back at his domain. At the moment, he was outside the boundary, and he couldn't execute Order 66. I didn't expect those fools to attack my store. Hey, system, can the store be destroyed? As long as the humble general store is level 9 or lower, the buildings cannot be destroyed. Wait, does that mean if I raise the store level to 10, my buildings can be destroyed? What the hell? Leo learned something scary from the system when he least expected it. Because of the revelation, he had concerns. Damn it, does that mean I have to stockpile lifespan before I raise the shop to level 10? Am I playing a freaking city-building game or something? Leo spat on the injured cultivator under him. Then he kicked the ground, heading back to the general store. The saliva landed on the injured golden core cultivator's face. His entire face instantly turned brown as his blood turned black. Blood vessels swelled, and his eyes were ejected from the eye sockets. Like the others, he squirmed in agony as the cancer cells rapidly grew and expanded. Nobody could hear his scream or understand their pain. He stopped moving 10 seconds later. However, the soil under him soon turned black. The weeds, bushes, and trees nearby slowly mutated, just like the trees and plants in Leo's domain. The mutation slowly spread toward the north. Chapter 80 Kidnappers hitting Florida man's house captured and eaten by cat. A few minutes earlier. Boom. A loud noise came from the front windows. Gao Yen, who had been resting in his room along with his two new friends, got up from their makeshift beds. They looked at each other in confusion. What's the noise? As much as you know, I don't know. Boom boom. They heard them again. It got louder and more frequent. The disciples were never afraid of ghosts. However, they were afraid of the unexplainable phenomenon during the night. Other disciples in the other rooms also got out to see the commotion. What's going on? Everybody came out and tried to look outside the windows. Gao Yen also followed the others to check the outside. Then they found the dark silhouettes of black clothes cultivators. The disciples panicked. They remembered what Wu Bai had warned them earlier that day. Intruders. They panicked. Everybody ran around like a headless chicken. Some tried to flee through the back doors, but they didn't know how to open the modern shutter doors. Gao Yen gulped and stood there, observing how the cultivators failed to break the glasses. He narrowed his eyes and noticed that a thin layer of energy wall bounced back the attacks. That's... Gao Yen wasn't sure, But he was certain that a mysterious power was at work, and Senior Florida Man might be responsible for the unknown protection array. After coming up with the hypothesis, Gao Yen was relieved. He regained his composure, and he began controlling the crowd. Relax, people. They can't get inside. Senior Florida Man and Senior Wu will protect us. Hearing Gao Yen, everybody stopped running around. Still, their faces were as pale as a sheet. Are you sure, Gao Yen? I'm sure. Look carefully. Do you think regular glasses are stronger than hammers and chi blades? Everybody realized the anomaly. They narrowed their eyes and observed the cultivators in front of the store. As Gao Yen had said, they attacked the glass windows several times, but their weapons broke. Some even tried using chi attacks on it, but they failed to harm or damage the glasses. Realizing the strange development, everybody stopped making noise, although they were still nervous. Click. Suddenly, the wooden door that served as a disguise was unlocked. The intruders opened the door. Shit! It's opened. We're screwed. Gao Yen broke a sweat. He gritted his teeth and was about to tell his friends to run to the back of the mall and hide. Rumble. Clank clank. As soon as the door was unlocked, modern shutter doors slid down from the ceiling, barricading the outsiders from getting in. Lock pads appeared along with the shutter doors, and they automatically locked them to the floor. Rumble. A new air curtain room was also erected, and they were automatically locked from the inside. Normally, air curtain rooms were usually served as a filter to eliminate foul air, insects, and contamination from the outside from getting into the building. But in this situation, it was used for security, blocking the intruders from getting in. Gao Yen and the disciples were astonished and relieved that the seniors' building magically protected them. Unfortunately, their mental strength was lacking, so they couldn't stand still. Everybody paced around the mall, waiting and praying for their seniors to come and help them. While they were waiting and praying, the intruders got inside the air curtain room. The cultivators started banging the glass doors and the walls. Noises from the entrance got louder, and the disciples could sense their killing intent directed toward them. This isn't good. Gao Yen couldn't stand still anymore. For the sake of everybody's safety, he reacted first. To the second floor. Move! Hearing the order of Gao Yen, everybody rushed to the staircase and headed to the second floor, leaving unnecessary belongings behind. When everybody reached the empty second floor, they looked around as if they had never got up before. Similar to the first floor, there was nothing here but 20 partitioned rooms and an elevator. One of the disciples approached the elevator. As he had seen how Leo operated it, he wondered if they could get out through this device. Can we use this to leave? Gao Yen and others followed the disciple and gathered in front of the elevator. They looked at the arrow buttons, but they had no idea what they were for. Nobody dared to touch them. Boom, boom. The loud bang sounds from the first floor were audible on the second floor. Everybody trembled in fear. Gao Yen bit his lower lip and pressed both buttons. Then they lit up. Gao Yen, what are you doing? The disciples panicked as they were afraid that he might ruin the mysterious protection array in the building. Gao Yen yelled, "There's no time to hesitate. We saw Senior Florida Man travels up through this shaft. Maybe there's a way to escape from here. But Elder Wu said we should stay indoors. Then, will you wait?" The disciple couldn't answer. He too wanted to get out of there. The others were also quiet as they were too young and inexperienced in this situation. Ding. While the disciples were silent, the elevator came down from the portal platform. The door was opened. Gao Yen took a deep breath and ordered everybody, "Get in there! Quick!" The disciples rushed into the elevator. However, the small elevator was too small for everybody to enter. Bzzz. In addition, there was a weight limit. The elevator revealed a red light, and a female voice came out from a speaker. "Elevator overburdened. Please mind the weight limit. I think you should take a look at." The disciples were confused at first, but it took them a few seconds to figure out the hints. They looked at each other as none of them wanted to leave the elevator. Gao Yen, on the other hand, hadn't entered the elevator yet. He heard the voice and he understood the general idea. He pulled 3 people out. "Gao Yen, let go of me," one of them protested. Gao Yen ignored him. "Not all of us can go. One of you get out. You can go on the next trip." Hearing the keyword, next trip, the crowd was relieved. One of them sacrificed his spot and got out of the elevator. Ding. The red light was gone, and the elevator was closed. However, it didn't move anywhere as the crowd inside hadn't pressed any buttons. As the elevator didn't move, the crowd panicked. They started banging on the metal door, trying to get out. Gao Yen, help! Damn it! I should have stayed. Gao Yen heard their voices, and he frowned. He pressed the arrow button again, and the elevator door was opened. As soon as the people inside could leave, they rushed out of the small place. Everybody panted and broke a sweat. They thought that they would have been trapped in there forever. I ain't going back in. Y'all can go. One of them pointed his finger at Gao Yan's face. Gao Yan shook his head. He waved his hand and invited the people that didn't get in earlier. The left-behind group looked at each other and followed Gao Yan inside. As there were only 7 of them, the elevator door was soon closed. Gao Yan was observant. He noticed the 3 buttons in the elevator, 1 button, 2 button, and a cloud palace button. What are these? The others also noticed them, but they weren't courageous enough to press them. On the other hand, Gao Yan already figured out the logic of this elevator. He pressed the cloud icon button. The elevator slowly moved up. What the hell? Whoa! The 6 disciples fell on their butts as if it was their first time riding a modern elevator. As for Gao Yan, he grabbed a rail and managed to maintain his balance. Soon, the elevator left the 2nd floor, leaving the group of selfish disciples earlier. The people dropped their jaws as they couldn't comprehend how Gao Yan could operate the elevator, but they couldn't. As the elevator exited the building through the absurdly long shaft, the people inside could see through the glass walls and saw the crowd below. They could also see the other buildings from above. Stunned by the scenery, Gao Yan and everybody forgot about the looming danger. They admired the night view. Alchemy workshops, clothing store, recycling center, warehouses, granaries, and the 3 small houses were still bright. LED lights from the facilities were always on during the night. Only the farm plots were in the dark. While attacking the store, the cultivators noticed movements from the elevator shaft. One of them climbed the roof to inspect the long glass tube, which connected to the flying platform. 2 of the golden core cultivators tried to attack it. They brought out their low-grade axes and hacked at the shaft. Clank! The axe shafts were broken in half upon impact. As for the glasses, they didn't even have a scratch on them. How strong is this thing? The cultivators got desperate. They stomped the roof tiles and tried to get in from above. Again, they only hurt their feet and legs. An elevator moved down from the flying platform and entered the building below. The 2 golden core cultivators were surprised and took several steps back from the shaft. What the hell? Hey, something is weird here. Although they had been stalking Leo, they didn't understand the logic behind this elevator. They also didn't notice that Leo had once used it to move up to the Mystic Realm portal platform. As the 2 made noise, 30 people that had nothing to do climbed the building and surrounded the shaft. What the hell is this? Who cares? Let's crush this thing and get inside. We're wasting too much time. 30 grown men started hitting the glass walls with their fists and chi. Boom. Again, all attacks were repelled and blocked by weird energy. Everybody hurt themselves in the process. The agent from the Ouyang clan had a bad feeling about this. He sent a voice transmission message to his colleagues and talked through their minds. Hey, let's retreat. We can't get in. Hearing their comrade's voice in their minds, the others also agreed. Yeah, it's like a fortress. We should report this to the clan and let the elders handle this. There's no need to risk our lives for achievements. True. We're up against a nascent soul cultivator, a 6th-stage monster, and a quasi-immortal. This is not our battlefield. After coming to the conclusion, 30 cultivators slipped out of the crowd and began to retreat west, heading to Magpie City. They boldly ran on the road across Wu Bai's house. They had no idea that behind the house, a terrifying glutton monster always lurked there. She usually went out at night to find some games in the forest as she was bored of potatoes. As the Ouyang clan's agents ran in the dark, they didn't see very far. A few seconds later, their feet hit something large, and they stumbled. The leader of the group warned his subordinates. Be careful. There are still logs and trees in the area. The cultivators grumbled and kicked the ground, planning to fly instead. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As they started flying, 30 thorn vines were shot out from the roof of a house. They coiled around the legs of the Ouyang agents. What? No! They realized it instantly as a pair of glowing red eyes below belonged to a nasty plant monster. Nom nom meow?